Hello everybody, welcome. It's lovely to see you all today. Today, as we come together to honour one of Lutruwita's most respected Aboriginal elders, it seems extra fitting to begin by acknowledging the Muanina people, the traditional custodians of Nipaluna. We do so with gratitude for the enduring strength of Tasmanian Aboriginal culture and for the generations of Aboriginal people who carried it forward and continue to do so today. Thank you for joining us today as we celebrate the remarkable Auntie Lola Greeno and wish her a very happy birthday. And what better reason than an 80th birthday to bring together two such distinguished women together to reflect on the lifetime of art and culture that Lola has had. Auntie Lola needs no introduction. As one of Lutruwita's most respected Aboriginal elders, artists and cultural custodians, she has dedicated her life to maintaining and sharing the necklace tradition while inspiring generations through her generosity, through her knowledge, and her unwavering commitment to culture. Joining Auntie Lola is Judith Ryan, one of Australia's most respected historians and art curators. During Judith's distinguished career at the National Gallery of Victoria, she played a pivotal role in bringing Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander art to national and international audiences through decades of scholarship, education, exhibitions, and close relationships with artists and communities. She's made an extraordinary contribution to the recognition and to the understanding of Aboriginal art. Judith and Auntie Lola have known each other for many years, and it's a privilege to have them here today. Please join me warmly in welcoming Judith and Auntie Lola.
It's a special honour to be here with someone whom I regard as a living treasure, a cultural warrior, a cultural jewel, and someone who has built an understanding of a great customary art form that belongs to Palawa women, that is very focused on land, waterways, and deep Trulaway knowledge learnt from her matrilineal ancestors and learnt by being in those waterways that surround Cape Barren and Flinders Island. I want to sort of ask Auntie Lola firstly to tell us about her upbringing and how she came to learn about shell stringing and learn about there's 24 different shells that are now protected just for Palawa to gather and string. So I want to just take us back to your earliest memories, Auntie Lola, and because it's over to you really. We want to hear you, and your legacy is surrounding us as people are wearing these glorious jewels and around the walls, and of course the beautiful kelp water carriers that are also part of this beautiful exhibition, and I noticed they'd already sold. Auntie Lola, over to you.
Thanks, Judith, and thank you everyone for being here. Look, my life started, I was born on Cape Barren Island, which is one of the smaller islands, second largest island in the Furneaux group of islands. And my family had a property of 4 or 5 acres of land, and we lived very close to the beach, obviously. And I call it in old terms like 100 yards from the beach. So that we had this wonderful beach. The place was called Prickly Bottom, and one of the things that I tried to work out, why did they call it that? And my idea to that was there was a lot of prickly bushes or boxes that grew, and we tried to get rid of those, obviously. And I think that's where the name came from. But I was so fortunate. I come from a family, my mum and dad and 9 other siblings, 7 brothers and 2 sisters. And we grew up in different stages, but, one of the things our parents taught us was the family values to us, what was important, and how family values helped us to maintain our life and our skills and our belief and looking after country. And so my first, I think, Judith, to say where I started with the shells was walking along the beach with my mum and the elders, and that seemed to happen, once a week or something. But I was probably about 5, I'm trying to remember, when we toddled along the beach, and that beach is still there. However, in the meantime, I had been back in the time when I worked for Arts Tasmania on a project to check that beach out, and some of the seaweed had deteriorated and the shells had gone, and the people that own it now had sort of, in a very natural way to keep people away from the beach, was to cut some trees down and stop people driving there and go, which was a good way to do it. But it was, that lovely learning from my mum, walking along the beach, picking up shells. If the elders were talking, well, I couldn't hand the shells to them. I had to put them in my pocket. And that was the collection. And in those days, you can imagine that children were seen and not heard, so you couldn't interrupt. And when Mum made in those days, we didn't join in or participate, and that was fine too. And she was telling me, I've learnt, like you said, I learnt over the years that I said to her, well, Mum, how come these necklaces got into a collection, some of these earlier ones from Cape Barren? There was some found in a museum down in Stanley, actually, and they'd come from there. I think one of the church ministers had come, and they got 1 and 3pence for their necklace. And that was, she said they didn't get family allowance in those days, so I bought the food and clothes for the children. So it's a very long story of how they were first traded and made. And I think probably a handful of women, of aunties, made the necklaces on the island. They obviously, of course, even today, there were different shells at different beaches. So we'd go to one place, to collect our mariners, but we would go to another place to collect what we call the dry shells. It might be the little grey shells or the cockles. And that's what Vanessa has great delight in. She's probably the expert collector today in Tasmania. But it's all the learning processes. I mean, you can't just go out and get some shells and sit and think you're going to sit down and thread them. There's so much to sorting and cleaning them and making your pattern and how you're going to preserve it.
That leads to an important thing I'd like you to tell us about, and that's the process of how it is a mariner is transformed into this glittering jewel. Because it does not look like that when it is collected from the kelp. So could you take us through some of those processes, but don't give us away the magic secret solution. Leave that your own knowledge, but just tell us about that. And then I'm going to go on to something different, which is actually how creative you are, and I want to look at that a bit later, but could you go through the process, because I had an enchanting day with you and Kevin and looking at the shells, and you were explaining all about it. So tell everyone what you can reveal.
Yes, well, even in the history books it tells how we traditionally collect the mariners. We get the right time of the year, the right tides, I'll call it. Even my daughter wants to protect a lot of our knowledge now, which is great. The generations are doing this. And you may see in one of the history books that to clean the shells traditionally, our earlier makers would then make a fire and put them in a large container, and I should imagine it was a shell. But that fire had to be made so it created a lot of smoke, and they rubbed the outer coating off the shells. Today we would go off to the islands and get some shells, freeze them, bring them back, and then we put them out to rot, and that could take months. And we wouldn't have them outside this time of the year because it wouldn't work. So that's for nature to come along, the flies and the ants, to what we call rotting out of it, and then they cleaned in a chemical solution. However, Vanessa's done a lot of work to be cleaning them naturally now. Seems to be working better. It retains the colour of the shells much more. So without giving away all the secrets, that's a shortcut to it, Judith.
Well, I have seen the Mariner necklace in the British Museum, and we have all seen the representations of your ancestor, Tuganini, and wearing that incredible necklace. But one of the things that's really excited me is, and it came to pass really in your Cultural Jewels travelling exhibition, the 50 necklaces, was how you you found different shells, large ones, and you grouped them in special patterns. The goose, one of the ones we bought for the NGV, and also how each of the shells are sort of being graded for size, for colour, and then they're threaded in particular patterns, and then each one seems to me to be like a statement, or it's like a portrait of country and waterways, and you know exactly the specificity of where you found these, and it's also recording memories of where you found them, and there's so much encoded in that beautiful glistening necklace that you are wearing, and it's almost like you are wearing country, and it is who you are. So I want to think about and applaud your originality, your initiative, and the brilliance of a lot of these combinations. We know about Jeanette James and the echidna quills, and each of you has a different sort of way of expressing yourself. So just a little bit about that, please, because this is what I really admire about
thanks,
you.
Yeah, great. I think the Cape Barren goose one is on the wall over here, behind Vanessa. That was a pattern that I made up. I wanted to depict the Cape Barren goose. It was pretty important wildlife from Cape Barren, and the shells represent obviously the colours of the feathers, the feet. We couldn't get a perfect colour for the beak, so that I'm using a beigey coloured oat shell, and nobody's copied it, thank goodness. That's mine alone for now. But it does. I mean, the mariner shells, the traditional shell, are very much sought after, and it does. Everybody wants one, and they are very special to all of us. I've got many in their collections. The other necklace that I made for an exhibition at TMAG was to depict Lucy Beaton, and I called my shells Lucy Beaton shells, and that was very special. I think that was acquired, Julie, by the collection. Was it down there?
Queen Vic have it.
Queen Vic.
Yeah.
Oh yes, that's right. We borrowed it from them.
They've got
Yeah.
the original one by Lucy.
Mm.
Oh,
Yeah.
isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
And I've got a feeling that those shells are decreasing. We are very hard to find. So that's what's happening in our environment.
And tell us about what's happening with the kelp as well, because of the environmental degradation that's happening there too.
Well, it's a combination, Judith. I had a feeling a few years ago there was something happening that didn't look right. It was looking very grey and whatever. And I remember saying to Rex, there's something happening with the sea. It doesn't look very healthy in the places we were going to. And in the meantime, Vanessa's been and taken lots of photos, and the shells have really been, perished really. But on one lot of the shells, I think it's the black crows in the nest, the outer coating's almost removed from this disease. And it's like if you look at the photo of the mariner shell, it looks like it's got a big bubble on it. And the kelps, there's a lot of people working on this project now with CSIRO and IMAS, so hopefully they can find something to help resolve it. But we know that's almost, you could say, all the southern end of Flinders Island has been affected by that disease. And again, it's, I said to some of the science people I talked to, I said, look, I've been making for 35 years. I'm 80 years old, but I never thought that I would live to see a day we may see our cultural practice wiped out by... And one of the reasons he thought that's also affecting it is the global warming. The urchins are coming in and they like little vacuum cleaners and they eat everything. How that could be resolved, I don't know. I only can judge by my natural, what I see. And of course scientists know more about that than I do, but we are very concerned.
Well, that only goes to show how special these works of art are. They hold so much culture, so much knowledge, so much memory, and also you get a glimpse of the places where these shells have been found, and the searching, the journeying and the processing. It's a celebration of women's business, and we're all very privileged to hear from you today, and just think of all of the people whom you have mentored, particularly non-Palawa people like me who keep calling you up and asking for all sorts of little things. I was lucky because I had Julie, but also I had James Mollison, and he said, Judith, you've got to get onto these shell stringers, get on the phone and try and speak to Joan and June Brown. And I did, and I had a conversation, and we started there.
Good.
And then Auntie Corrie, and then Julie was pointing me in the right direction, because we always have to listen and be guided by people who know more than we do about their culture. So I think we're all in awe of you, Auntie Lola, and so congratulations on 80 years, 35 years of making, and always the first person I would want to have for the collection would be you, from this great place, Lutruwita.
All I can say is enjoy. Anyone that owns a necklace now is to enjoy it, especially So yeah.
And love wearing it.
Yes.
And be proud.
We've got a community meeting coming up this week for the shell stringers, so they've got 2 hard days in front of them. So that's progress.
And also there's been so much done with with fibre, and also with working with kelp as sculpture, and so many makers now, and that sort of it's a living art form.
Absolutely. And our next stage, my daughter and I are working on a project through the Canberra Glass Works, which will be installed at the Australian Museum in Sydney in early 27, and that statement will be about this disease in the shells and the kelp.
Yes.
So keep an eye out for that.
We certainly will.
I don't know whether anyone's got any questions.
Does anyone
Any
want to
questions?
Ask Brenda?
Hello, Brenda.
Hello. Thank you so much, both of you, and I love that it's about relationality as well. It's not simply about amazing works of art on the wall. Auntie Lola, how many people are working in making shell necklaces today?
How many did respond to the meeting? About a dozen?
I'd say a dozen.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
And what's the age range of people working on this?
We don't have...
There's a couple of young.
Couple of young.
Probably 30, most are probably
Mm.
mid.
Oh, for over there. Yep. Yep.
Wrap it around you.
Yeah, sorry, I'm Vanessa. We've got about 12 to 15 makers. Probably the youngest would be Charlize and Sheridan. Sheridan's 21. Yeah. My two nieces, they would be the youngest. We certainly do have people that are keen to learn and have been shown. And then we've got probably a couple who are in their 30s. Most, I would say, would be 50-ish and above. Yeah.
Which makes it urgent, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. This disease is travelling very, very quickly. So, yeah, it's not good.
And the urgency is upon us all if we don't have one.
Mm.
It's a good exhibition today.
Yes, and they all work in different ways too, of course. You know, some live down here, some live up north, and... You know, like the interview on the radio the other day said, where do you go to get shells? And I said, well, I travel in the northeast and down the east coast, go back to Flinders to get the mariners. We have times of the year for collecting and times of the year for making. And this time of the year we're juggling 3 projects.
Also, we see that Gail Marbo incorporates the black crows in her mapping projects with the bamboo, and I see that, right through where I live, a lot of people are eager to get necklaces. It's always on the agenda because they appreciate and understand how important they are culturally. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Any other questions?
I do. Thank you.
Hello, Auntie Lola. I would like to ask you, as a maker, what you were doing until 45, other than family. Because it seems like you only started, I'm assuming you're still making necklaces?
Yes.
So did you make in other ways?
I probably didn't really start until I moved from the island over here, and people started. It was when I actually went to the School of Art to do an associate diploma in the arts, and I was getting a lot of questions, and I thought, oh gee, I think I'd better do something about this while my mum's still alive. And that's what pushed me, and it was so important, and that's probably been the urge that's driven me forward to work with her. And Brenda talked about the patterns, or Judith, and Mum and I started with a pattern, and actually those pattern necklaces are in the National Gallery collection, where we started. And we we were criticised for being different in the patterns and the different and bigger shells. So there you go. But look, today everybody wants to use everything, and that's fine too. But obviously on the island, yes, we still, lived a very cultural life. We're doing lots of other things, still always going to the beach with the kids, and during the mutton bird season it was time to do that, of course. And, it was time for Dean and Vanessa to grow up. And when Vanessa was 2, I moved to Launceston and Dean was 5 to give them a better education was the main reason. So it was just that push of somebody asking me about the necklaces and all of the... And I said, oh no, that belongs here in my heart. It doesn't belong anywhere else. And I thought, but still, if you want to learn about the artist or the person, you need to know the story. And so there's not a lot written in the history books about shell necklaces, very little. And, I've learnt a lot over the years and found a lot out of what was happening even down south here. It was very different to what's happening today, of course.
Thank you very much to both of you. If you'd all like to join us in song, we'd like to sing Happy Birthday to you, Happy Birthday to you, Happy Birthday dear Lola, Happy Birthday to you. Thank you so much for coming. Please join us this afternoon. Join us and Auntie Lola's family for some cake, some conversation. I think there might be some sandwiches. Thank you all for coming. Let's chat later.